It is my privilege to welcome Mr. Dileep this morning on a session of Budget Analysis 2022. Mr. Dileep has over 20 years of work experience in the area of development finance and public policy. He has worked with public sector development financial institution HUDCO and looked after the area of project management. Subsequently, he attended IIMA for 1 year, PGPM, PMP, and joined GMR Group in strategic finance, taking care of group's strategic financing requirements, international M&As, and acquisition finance. Thereafter, he worked in the area of corporate finance, treasury, and banking with Usha Breco Limited, which is part of Usha Martin Group, into new business initiatives, affordable housing, affordable education, and passenger ropeway. He has also worked as an electro steels and Cadila Pharma in the area of strategic finance, treasury, and banking, and currently Sir is associated with Brickworks India Rating Agency. He is the chairman of the company in and based out of Ahmedabad. We could find no better person to analyze the budget except Dileep sir. Very good morning to you, sir, and a very warm welcome on behalf of Amity Global Business School and all our students. We really look forward to insights from you on the budget. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Aparajita, for the introduction. A very good morning to all the participants. Without taking much time, thanks for the kind word, Aparajita. I'm still a student and learning, so I joined one more among the batch of all the students here, actually. But through this presentation, I will take you through the budget 22-23, which was presented by Finance Minister on the 1st of February. And my take will be slightly different. I will not go at what becomes cheaper and what is expensive and other things, but for you students, what hope this budget brings and where this it lays the path where we go with this budget and how it helps each one of us and where is what is there in it. As in Ahmedabad we say Marosu, so we will try to detect what is there in it for each one of us and what we get from this budget. So without taking more time, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible and see if we can take questions and how it goes actually. And I wish and I feel that at the end of the session, you all will be having some better understanding of the budget and the direction it has taken and where it will take us as a company. I'll just try to share my screen and have a presentation started actually. I guess the PPT is visible.
Yes,
Yes,
sir, it is visible.
Okay, fine. So we start with the budget of this year actually. And before I get into the nitty-gritties of what was discussed and what was presented in the budget, it's very important to look at the background actually under which this budget was prepared by the finance minister actually. As we all know, the country and the world as a whole has going through a big crisis, healthcare crisis, virus crisis, whatever we call it, for last 2 years actually. And no one in this world has been, none of the countries has been unaffected by this actually. So to a certain extent, we all have been affected by that. And economic activity has been badly affected for last 2 years. So under these circumstances, our finance minister attempted to present something which may not be very attractive, or we may find that it has not given anything to anyone, or as we usually look at what is the tax cut and what becomes cheaper, as I said, but that is not the thing actually we should look at. And as you students, we should look at the hope and the growth path which this budget takes us to. So as you know, before the budget, one day before the budget, the economic survey is presented in the parliament, and that sets the tone actually. That tells where we are and what the budget will attempt to take us where exactly we want to go actually. So that's what budget is all about. So I'll just see what was the state of the economy when the budget was presented actually. So since 2017-18, our economy has been decelerating. Actually, we got the data for 2019-20 on this January 31st only, actual data, which was 3.7%, which is much lower and not expected from an economy like India, which has huge potential and everyone is aiming at double-digit growth. But somehow we reached 3.7% only in 2019-20. And mind you, this is not a year when COVID was there actually. See, the lockdown started in just last 10 days of March 20. So we were already decelerating before COVID. And then COVID hit. Once the COVID hit, actually, we all know what happened. No economic activity for 2 months. Then it started slowly. Then second wave, April 21. And after that, Omicron. So it has been series of ups and downs actually, which will be reflected in the graph if we see next actually. So 22 somehow due to the pent up demand and all, the budget growth is estimated to be around country's GDP growth is estimated to be around 9.2%. But if you look at 2019-20, there was a contraction in 2021. An economy, instead of growing, there was a contraction. There was no activity actually. And as we move ahead and we go, actually, we see 22, it is estimated to be 9.2%. And in the current budget for coming year, 22-23, the range is 8 to 8.5% growth. So that will be setting the tone actually. So it's not that we are going to go in double, but this is one of the best growth rate among all the major economies in the world. So that gives us hope of what this budget will bring in. Just a graph which shows the impact of COVID actually. If you see Q1 2021, that was April 20, complete lockdown, huge fall in GDP as well as GVA. GVA is gross value addition. Gross value addition is what we produce minus what we consume. So whatever value it adds to the economy actually. The next bar chart, if you see after first wave and second wave, and during the Omicron time, we have surpassed the pre-COVID level. So there was some hope actually. We had recovered slightly from the setback which we got from the COVID pandemic, and economy was slowly moving towards this thing, and then Omicron came. So it's been a series of ups and downs, total seesaw journey for GDP, and that makes a job of a finance minister very difficult. How to do the balancing act, what to do. Government has been providing free ration to the poor people, which was important. Otherwise, there would have been severe crisis for survival of mankind in this country, and our population, which at times is our strength, can become also a big problem actually. So these graphs are nothing but a depiction of how COVID affected the GDP growth rate as well as gross value addition in the economy. Not to repeat, just it has badly affected us actually. The next is the table actually. This is the IMF projection of growth. So if you look at India, in 22 we are projected by IMF to grow at 9%. In 23 also, 22 also 9%. 21 and 22 IMF is projecting India to go to. By the way, the 9.2% figure which I said earlier is just an estimate. Just like 2021 3.7%, we will get the actual number going forward when the data comes in. But currently, this is an international multilateral institution which studies economies of the world and which gives up some hope that at least among all the countries in the world, India is likely to do much better. So I was talking about IMF economic outlook. IMF has projected a realistic picture, and India is much likely to do better than all other countries in the world actually, so, including China. See, China has been growing much faster than India, but India is likely to do much better. So with this background, Omicron, everything, so FM has attempted a budget. Now, before we move on to budget, this graph shows you CPI is consumer price index and wholesale price. This is inflation actually. If we are growing faster actually, but if our inflation is high, our real GDP growth rate will be lower. Actually, we have to remove inflation out of that. So world over, if you see, US is now currently close to 7%. All Europe is close to 5%. India is slightly higher than 5%. As far as consumer price index is concerned, so inflation is growing. That is a concern. And if inflation grows, then interest rate has to be monitored by RBI and Fed Reserve in US. And if the interest rate goes up again, the money moves away to bonds and other things. So it creates a problem actually. So for now, India has been able to manage in the RBI tolerance rate range of 2 to 6%. But as it goes, it can create a problem. But then inflation again, we are directly affected or unaffected by it actually, because if you look at, I'll just take you to the next slide. This is a world map. And if you look at green, these are 0 to 2% this thing. Australia, if you look at Australia, China, and Canada, and some countries in South America and parts of Africa, they have 0 to 3% this thing. But by and large, all over the world, it's light brown, 0 to 3 to 10%. India, US, all other major economies, Russia, everything. China is again in 0 to 3%. That is not a very great sign. China, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, they are in a lower inflation bracket. Japan actually, as if you know, has been going through deflation. So there is no inflation there. In fact, they are struggling to grow. So this world map shows the inflation scenario world over actually. So it's not we are better off, but it's not we are worse off also. If you look at dark brown, a country like Iran or Somalia, Colombia, these are going through a very high rate of inflation. Afghanistan, there is no data. Greenland and all, there is no data actually. So inflation becomes important from interest rate point of view, because if the interest rate is high, then economy is affected actually, and everything becomes expensive. Loan becomes expensive. Business becomes difficult to run if the money is not available at a reasonable rate. So that was the idea behind this, showing how India plays vis-a-vis other countries of the world actually. This is just the size of economy, not to confuse you. If you look at rupee terms, it will look very confusing, but we are close to 3 trillion. The government has targeted to become a 5 trillion economy. At present, we are at number 6 and targeting to become number 3. Top 3 are US, China, and Japan. After that, Germany and UK. We have beaten France, so we are above France and most likely to move ahead of England and Germany also. Then India has only Japan, China, and US above us. But in terms of activity, India is doing much better. So this was the background under which the FM attempted this year's budget. So again, before we start with the budget, as I said, the middle class always looks budget from the income tax point of view actually. It's not income tax slab which is important actually. So as I said, let's look. I have not included any tax announcement in my analysis. I'll just look at the fundamentals and what finance ministers covered in the budget actually. So now let's get started with the budget. Actually, what exactly, before I get into the budget, let me deconstruct the budget for you. Actually, how and what are the resources of the government and from where they get money and how they deploy it actually. So if you look at the first pie chart, total 35% of the resources government is borrowing actually, which is not a very good sign actually. And if you look at next pie chart, 20% of the total resources go towards payment of interest. So this is how the country's finances are being managed actually, which is not an ideal situation. Taxes give only 58% of total resources, and then we have other receipts. If you look at corporation tax, income tax put together 30%, custom 5%, union excise duty, GST 16. So all this put together goes to close to 65, and then 35 rupees we borrow actually, and then where it is deployed, 20% goes into payment of interest. Balance goes, 17 goes to state, then finance commission. 8% is subsidy. The subsidy given on food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, fuel subsidy has gone down actually, and then there is 9% which goes to centrally sponsored. So these pie charts are nothing but just to give an overview from where the government receives money and how it deploys. So budget is all about this actually. So the 1.5 hour speech which the FM gives takes care of from where we are going to get money and how we are going to deploy it actually. So I've concentrated more so that as students you will get to know uh, what a budget is all about actually, and how big are the numbers which we are talking about. So next graph is again pictorial depiction of total budget size and from where we get money and from where it goes actually. So if you look at current year budget 22-23, total budget size is 39.45 lakh crore. So that is the amount of money government has budgeted for running the country in 22-23. Of this, if you see, gross tax revenue is around 27.58 lakh crore. That is the bigger this thing circle. And this from where we get it is GST, customs, tax on income, union excise, corporate tax. So this 27.58 remains 19.35 in the hand of government because 8 states takes away their share of 8.17. Then there are capital receipt. Capital receipt, major portion of capital receipts with debt. That is the borrowing by the government actually. So this year target is 16.61 the government will be borrowing. And there is some other small income if you see that comes in forms of dividend from the public sector enterprises. There are interest on loans which government have extended to the state government and others, and then the others revenue. So all this put together, we get 39.45, and we deploy 16.24 in the central scheme and transfer for establishment expenditure at 23.21 actually. These are broad numbers, no need to confuse. Then there is subsidy actually, which is a major cause of concern. Food subsidy, the free food which is distributed during the COVID time, all that takes away a large portion of the resources which the government has. Then establishment expense of the government. Next, I have a table. No need to get unnerved by the numbers. Again, I will say this is just to give you an idea. Actually, see if you look at this table, it's not same thing. The numbers which were there in the earlier chart. See, we have total receipts of 22.83 crore, 83 lakh crore, whereas which is not sufficient. The budget is 39.44909, so 39.45. So 16.61, around 16 lakh or roughly 17 lakh crore government has to borrow to run the country. That is the main figure which you have to see, and you hear the term fiscal deficit. I'll take you to the next graph. How do we get this fiscal deficit? This fiscal deficit is nothing but the shortfall which the government has it in its resources for which it has to borrow. And if when government borrows, there is a demand for loan and the rate of interest goes up. We discussed inflation with that thing in mind, because if inflation is high, the interest rate will be high. The other contributor to interest rate is the government borrowing plan. If the government borrows more, then the rate of interest will go up. Rate of interest goes up, your home loan goes up, vehicle loan goes up, business loan goes up. So it affects the economy badly. That is why if you see this term fiscal deficit, you will be hearing off and on regularly actually. But if you see total money which government receive is 22.04 lakh rupees. So there is a deficit. Total expenses which they need for this thing, 30, you may think that where 39.5 gone. So 39.5 plus this 7.5 capital expenditure makes it 39. So actual to run the expenses, government need 39.94. And this 39 against the 39.94, they have receipt of 22. So there is a gap of 9.9. That we call revenue deficit. And the borrowing 16.61 is the fiscal deficit. So fiscal deficit, so now you know to run the country in 22-23 financial year, government will be borrowing close to this amount actually. Last year deficit was again targeted lower, but it went up to 6.9%. One reason was the divestment plan, selling of the public sector undertaking did not go ahead as planned actually. Government could not come up with the IPO of LIC, which is going to be major contributor. So next year, the government has kept lower target for disinvestment. And this is the scenario of government budget. So it's like running your own home actually. What is the total receipt and where you deploy the resources? So budget it's all about how you manage your resources to satisfy the overriding demand to provide for the poor, to subsidize loans to the MSME, and what effect it will have that we see in the coming budget actually. So with this background and these big numbers, what finance minister has announced in the current budget, that as I said, economic growth has estimated at 9.2%, highest among the all major economies. In this budget, they have capital expenditure of around 7.5 lakh crore, which is going to create around 60 lakh new jobs. That should be of some interest to you actually. And I say how it will affect you. As you go ahead, we'll see actually. See, government is not just, these are not laborers actually. We will have technical manpower requirement and we have management resources required to manage the economy once it really attempt to grow at 8.5, what we are targeting actually. Then there is a PLI scheme, that is productivity linked incentive scheme actually, which is one initiative which government has taken to promote domestic industry, wherein our domestic producers produce things which we are traditionally importing. I can give you one example of a successful PLI scheme. In October 2020, Government of India banned the import of split ACs. By then we Yeah. So till October 2020, we were importing major portion of our split ACs. After that, government put a ban actually, and they came out with a PLI scheme. So currently, the import of AC is almost close to nil. If you have been monitoring shares of companies like Dixon Technology or Amber Enterprises, you can see the difference actually why these companies' shares have gone up from 2,000 rupees to 6,000 rupees. It is because of this effect of PLI and how it is benefiting the AC manufacturing. That is just one example I have given. Government has in this year's budget announced PLI for solar sector, to solar cell manufacturing and other things. So that again has multiple ripple effect on the economy. It's not just the resources, it is the employment and all everything related to that and other industries dependent on these sectors. So 30 lakh crore is what government is targeting through PLI to increase the production, 60 lakh new jobs. There are four priority areas which Finance Minister has kept in this year's budget. One is PM Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti is nothing but a big push for infrastructure actually. If the economy has to grow at and with our growth rate, then we should have all sectors of economy doing very well, and there should be a smooth movement of goods and people, better communication network. So PM Gati Shakti is nothing but attempting to improve the existing infrastructure of the country. And as we go ahead in the subsequent slide, we'll see how it benefits. Inclusive development. So that bridging the gap between the haves and have-not actually. The people who have resources and people who don't have. One example of inclusive development is the Ujjwala scheme, providing gas connection to poor people actually and people who did not have access to cooking gas. So that is one of the major things. Then Har Ghar Nal, like pipe water to every family. That is again an example of inclusive development. So government has budgeted amount for all these schemes, and this is in a way you can say part of welfare budget, but it will contribute to the overall growth of the economy actually, and it does impact us to a certain extent because the living standard improves, health standard improves, so all the cost to health goes down. That is the reason this has been given importance. So third part is productivity enhancement, investment in energy transition, solar energy, green energy. That has been, India has committed to zero carbon emission by 2070, and we have been moving towards non-polluting sources of energy. Solar has been a big push. India is the major partner of International Solar Alliance, and we have been doing very well. Closer home, if you look at Adani Green Energy, that is the major contributor to this sector actually. So all those in Ahmedabad, you should know actually Ahmedabad is contributing major part of all these initiatives actually. As we go ahead, we'll see. And then financing of investment. This point is very important actually. It is not government job to invest in business or in infrastructure actually. Basically, government job is to govern. But since private sector doesn't find infrastructure project to be viable or giving return in the near term, government has to step in and then develop the project and hand over to the private sector. If you see the airport privatization, all these airports like Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Guwahati, Nagpur, which went to, incidentally again, Adani Group, they were all developed by Airport Authority of India and then handed over to private sector to run and to pay a portion of their revenue to the government actually. So this financing of investment is nothing but creating resources and then look at how you can monetize these resources to raise resources for the government actually, and then further invest and provide all necessary infrastructure for the development of the country actually. So what are the major engines which drive PM Gati Shakti? It's road, railways, airport, port, mass transport, waterways and logistics and infrastructure actually. So road, what is budgeted for the road? Actually, it's like to increase network by 25,000 kilometers, and 20,000 crore has been marked for that actually. See, now, if you look at it, how does it affect you actually? But if you see the country, if it is going to construct 25,000 kilometers of highway, it requires huge labor forces actually. Demand for cement, steel, not just labor, just technical manpower. You will require engineers to oversee all this work, and you will require managers like you to manage these companies, these projects, resources, borrowing for these roads. So that's why I say all these measures have direct impact on each one of us, and how it helps economy. It will just spur each and every activity in the economy, not just steel, cement, or say labor market. It will be heavy equipment sales. Anything you say which is required for the construction of road will be given a big push by these initiatives. Just related to that is multimodal logistic park. So that is integrating logistics actually, having a container terminal near railway station or an airport, integrating it with last mile connectivity. All these will help economy grow. Then next comes the railway, which is a major this thing. So due to pandemic, railways has not been running regular services for last 2 years. But this year government has come out with a scheme of one product, one station, which is similar to what you see in Uttar Pradesh as ODOP, one district, one product. So it's like promoting product through airport, railway station. Why I said airport? Because Belgaum airport has been doing that. They have been promoting local artisans at the airport and try to give a push to local culture as well as local products actually. Then people can look at that when they arrive at Belgaum or they leave Belgaum. It's just selling your cities or your products actually. So it's like something similar they are going to attempt for the railway stations also. It will be one product, one railway station that's going to give push to the local businesses and local products, which one can use railway stations to market their product, to display their product and create awareness about that. And amount of traffic our railway handles, it will be a good exposure to the local businesses. 2,000 crore of railway to be brought under Kavach, which is indigenous technology and capital augmentation actually. So that is again big push. Next big announcement is 400 new Vande Bharat trains. At present, we have only two Vande Bharat trains. One is between Delhi and Varanasi, and other is Delhi Katra, that is Vaishno Devi. So, but government plans to bring 400 new trains over next 3 years actually. This will make commuting very easy, comfortable, and connectivity at a very high speed. Again, as economic activity becomes easier, it helps actually goods movement, everything. Though Vande Bharat is a passenger train, but then we have dedicated freight corridors coming up along the same lines actually, which will be facilitating the movement of goods across cities and states, which will help the economy. Then again, PM Gati Shakti cargo multimodal terminals, railway station will be developed. This Parvatmala is a new initiative which no government ever thought about actually. This is basically about last mile connectivity. Sometimes, say, suppose if you are going to a location like Badrinath, Kedarnath, train can drop you to a particular point, but beyond that, you don't have connectivity because of the difficult terrain. So government is this year planning to introduce ropeways, similar to what you can see in Girnar, Ambaji, or Pavagadh. These ropeways will be providing last mile connectivity to people in the areas where there are difficult terrains actually. Government has already worked on increasing the railway network in Northeast, and this will definitely help states in Northeast and hilly region to provide the last mile connectivity. So this is a big push for infrastructure and connectivity so that people can reach to far reaches, and the areas which are not so developed also get to see the development. So this is the basic push by finance minister in the current budget. In agriculture, a lot of announcements actually. So direct payment has been started for farmers actually. Once in every quarter, 2,000 rupees are transferred to farmers under PM Kisan Yojana. Then government is promoting chemical-free organic farming actually, so that the soil fertility is not affected by excessive use of chemical. For that, government is promoting chemical-free farming. NABARD will facilitate blended capital startups in agriculture sector. Then Kisan drone to monitor your field where you have agricultural produce actually. Next is you'll find this slightly difficult. Can Betwa actually? Why can Betwa? See if you, I'll just take you to the next slide. Can Betwa is going to increase irrigation, provide irrigation to around 9.08 lakh hectares of land actually. This is area between these two rivers, Ken and Betwa in Madhya Pradesh, which is Bundelkhand region, which is suffering from severe water crisis for decades together, and no government has paid any attention to that. So this government has now planned to link these two rivers so that that can connect these two tributaries of Yamuna River, Ken and Betwa, and it will provide water resources to water-starved Bundelkhand region and give a push to the agriculture. So 18,000 crore has been put for this. So that is the significance of this thing, and this also opens the way for interlinking of rivers in other parts of the country if it works actually. So that something very, what you can say, adventurous attempted by the government actually, and let's hope that it works for them. Then again, MSME. Basically, during the lockdown, MSMEs were most badly affected. And MSME, why it is important is because it's one of the major employers actually, and it employs around 60 to 70% of unskilled and unskilled people after agriculture. Though people now employment in agriculture is going down, so MSME is major employer, and major search was given to provide loan to MSMEs who are being affected by COVID, and government has provided guarantee for this actually. So that's what, and they have budgeted 2 lakh crore for this micro and small enterprises, for which the government will guarantee loan, and people can, this can again spur economic activity. So that's what the amount of importance attached to micro and small medium enterprises, because they employ a large section of population actually, and if the MSME sector is spurred up, then again it will give push to employment for all the people. Then digital ecosystem actually, big push for digital in this budget. Government has been doing all these things actually, and apart from digital, drone, as you saw in agriculture monitoring of your field, then again drone Shakti, government has come out with DRAS, which is drone as a service actually. So defense sector, they have been already been using, and government is going to promote startup which are working on drone technology. So there will be a huge support for people who are working on the drone system. Then there is a Desh Stack e-portal, which is digital ecosystem skilling for livelihood. So there is a lot of push for skill development actually in digital system. Same for education. So one class, one TV channel. There are online modes for in providing education to the far-reaching corners of the country where students don't have access to good schools. So this will all help give benefit of education to people who have been till now deprived of education benefit actually. So other the budget initiative, that is natural digital health ecosystem actually. Government has paid huge importance to mental health actually, and government is going to start national tele mental health program, which is for counseling and other things. So this is a sign of growing economy actually. See, from burnout, stress, all that due to either workplace or other things. So government has now paid attention that there is a large section of people who are suffering from stress-related issues, which can be handled through tele counseling and all that. That's why they have started 23 tele mental health centers, and that indicates that government is sensitive towards the growing need for mental health care in the country. And this is an initiative where private sector should also participate, and people will come and join. NIMHANS has been doing great work, but it is not everywhere. So this will just certainly help to do. As I said, Har Ghar Nal Se Jal, actually 60,000 crore allocated for that. Surprisingly, such a large population of the country did not have access to pipe water. So now the government is planning to provide pipe water. You would have seen videos of pipe water in far reaches of Leh and Ladakh, which never saw pipe water actually. And there you require heating for the water. So all that has been attempted, and government is doing that. 48,000 crore for housing to build 80 lakh houses. So that again going to put the big push to real estate sector. Actually, this is mainly in affordable segment under PM Awas Yojana. But then look at, if you construct 80 lakh houses, look at the amount of cement, bricks, labor, man forces, civil engineers, what electrical fitting that will be required, pipe for these houses, paint, all these things. So basically, this budget is only to put the demand, actually, demand for each and every commodity which is used in development of all these things. There is a big announcement for post offices to be 100% of the post office to develop into core banking sector, actually. And commercial banks will come up with 75 digital banking units. Actually, the digital push after demonetization, there was a lot of criticism actually, but then digital push has helped people during the lockdown, and we understood. Now in UPI payment, India is #1 in the world, and RuPay has now been accepted in Gulf countries as well as Singapore. So slowly, India is challenging the monopoly of MasterCard or a Visa with our own RuPay initiative. Actually, that is again one thing positive which digital push from India has brought to the world, and any product from India is getting acceptance in countries like Singapore or say UAE or Saudi Arabia and this thing. E-passport is next in an announcement actually. How does that affect you? It will prevent counterfeiting. It will have a chip. Your passport can be tracked. So it will be tamper-proof. It can record your fingerprint or iris data. So it facilitates actually. If you see the ranking of Indian passport, it has been slowly increasing. There are close to 50 or 60 countries where you can travel without visa, or you have visa on arrival. So that again increase as the country's economic status grows. Your status also grow as a citizen when you travel abroad. We are facilitated in countries, and we get easier access to visit these most of the countries actually. So e-passport is one such initiative that shows that India has arrived actually. If you see the difference in US and India about your vaccination certificate. In US, they give handwritten vaccination certificate. Now people are suffering from issues of losing their vaccination certificate. Whereas in India, you have a e-certificate actually, which you can download on your WhatsApp and keep it on your mobile actually. So in certain sectors, we are doing much better than the best of the world. So that again shows India is doing much better. Again, you would have heard of digital currency, cryptocurrencies and all. Digital rupee by RBI initiative, which they are planning to introduce. It's not crypto, but it's backed by government public sector bank. So it will be a good alternate. I will not say crypto, but let us see how the details emerge. But yes, government has a plan to introduce digital currency through RBI in the coming financial year. Yeah, budget again. If you remember earlier graph, where the money goes, 8% of our total budget goes into defense. It's close to 5.5 lakh crore. Out of 5.5 lakh crore, 1 lakh crore goes into pension payment, salaries and other. So very little left for procurement of equipment. But now with push of Atmanirbhar Bharat, government is targeting to procure 60%, 68% of total defense procurement through Indian companies only, and invest in R&D and all. India has recently sold BrahMos missile to Philippines. So right from being an importer, now India is supplying weapons, though it's not a good thing actually. We should not be supplying weapons and all to the world over, but then it spurs our economy, we get money, we get foreign exchange. If many of you would have been born by 1990, there was a time when India had to mortgage its gold to get forex in 1990s when Mr. Yashwant Sinha was finance minister, to this day when we have a forex reserve of close to 650 billion. So India has come a long way, and economy is doing well. In COVID, we could manage the country much better than all other countries in the world. other point is sunrise of this is new sector which government has said that they will pay attention to sunrise opportunities, R&D in geospatial system, drones, semiconductors. That is one area where China people are looking for alternate to China actually in semiconductor production, in container shortage, space economy. So India is looking at how we can use our satellite launching capability to earn more foreign exchange and provide these services to other countries of the world. Elon Musk has already started doing at a private level, so ISRO will have to complete this thing. Then there are genomics, pharmaceuticals, green energy, everything. All these areas government has identified as sunrise opportunities where government will be providing resources, and this can be used. This thing, and you all also can look at these sectors which are being propped up by government for growth, and also these are the sectors for those who are looking at entrepreneurship, even for building a career. These are some of the sunrise sectors identified by government to support actually. Then again, energy transformation, as I said, PLI in power sector. So I'll not go to another is data centers. Actually, data centers. If you see Monday's paper, Adani has floated a company for data centers. Now, data centers is what is required by Mastercard and Visa to store your data locally, which government is pushing actually. So that has been given infrastructure status, and both Reliance and Adani Group and other companies are setting up data centers because there will be a huge requirement for data centers as we move towards digital economy for all the records to be in the local this thing actually. So I think this is what mainly are if specific to Ahmedabad gift that is being promoted by Government of India. There is an international arbitration center coming up in the gift, as well as government is looking to invite all world-class foreign universities and institutions to come and set up their centers in gift so that people have access to this thing. And gift will be again an offshore kind of thing. We already have plane leasing facilities in gift. We have bullion exchange, international bullion exchange coming up in gift. So that is again locally, if you look at a big initiative by government to promote gift as an offshore entity which can replace Dubai or Singapore as a finance center. Sunrise opportunity I have already covered. So this was in the nutshell budget. Now I'll just touch upon the points actually why these announcements and what our finance minister is attempting to do through this. Basically, as I said, investment is not government job, but then she has looked at ramping up the capital expenditure. Largely, she has restricted the revenue expenditure, and capex is higher than overall this thing. But why capex actually? If you I looked at the numbers actually, and what I came across was that usually 1 rupee investment in capital expenditure gives return somewhere between 2.5 to 4.8 rupees over a period of 1 to 7 years. Whereas if I invest the same money for revenue purposes, it may not give me return more than a rupee. So that's why capex push for by government in this budget, so that we get higher return for the economy, and it props up our economy towards a better growth rate, and what we are targeting to reach double digit someday, we are able to achieve that. And this will this has what you can say ripple effect. Everything will be affected by that positively. That's why capex push in the current budget. This will also create job, and not just, as I said, low level unskilled job. It will increase skilled job. It will require for management managerial capacity to manage those projects, as well as banking support, all other support. So overall economy on paper it looks very positive, but let's see how it goes this thing. Now if I compare this with how US has done, US has been directly transferring money to its citizens during the COVID period, whereas what Government of India has attempted is they have provided guarantee, except for providing grains and other support to the poor. Our support has been more in terms of guarantees. So when US has given money, easy money to its citizens, it has propped up their inflation actually. So when there is a lot of liquidity, the rates of things will go up. So now they are facing close to 7% inflation, and Fed is talking about increasing the rate of interest. That is the reason you see successive fall in Indian stock market also, because the money easy money will flow towards bond, and those who are looking for safe havens will invest in bond. So emerging market may see some flight of money from equity to interest rate linked instrument. But then again, as I said, this is all theoretical. How it happens on ground, let us see how it goes actually. But there's no comparison between our strategy and US strategy. Both are right in their place. But yes, India has done certainly better compared to what we have been doing in past actually. So will this succeed? As I said, will this succeed? On paper, it looks like it should definitely succeed. If I look for reason why it should not succeed, maybe because these are not normal times. There are deep scars on economy, and our informal sector has been badly affected initially due to demonetization because it was all cash transaction, and subsequently due to lockdown. Informal sector job losses have contributed to a large extent to the negativity in the economy. Let's hope that it gets popped up and this thing. But overall, if I have to summarize, it's a good budget to really stimulate or accelerate the growth of economy, provided there are no further waves of corona or lockdowns and other things, which doesn't look likely. So we are set for a good year coming ahead. And for you people, actually, you would have seen a term called revenge hiring on Monday, Times of India, actually. All the management institutes students getting hired in very short term time, actually, because this revenge hiring is because the corporate has been starved of resources for last 2 years, actually. So it will start, it will help, and it is supported by the growth in economy, actually. See, that's why if I have to take away any lesson, actually, we should look at larger picture and not at how much tax rate has been reduced and how much money I get, what becomes cheaper. So my headphone becomes expensive, charger becomes expensive. So all these things, diamond jewelry becoming cheaper. We should not look at, because there is a famous management quote which says, when something is free, you are the product. We all waste a lot of time on social media, but if you see, social media isn't free. It costs you your focus. It costs you your time, actually. So whatever we get, if it's in context of our budget, if we get tax exemption, that much money government has less to spend on economy, and indirectly that affects us, actually. So we should look at the larger picture and hope that it works, actually. This is a statement of finance minister after the budget to explain why she did what she did. She's looking at Amrit Kal, they call it next 25 years, India growing from 75 to 100. So this budget lays down the path for how India should move from 75 to 100 years and grow and become a force to reckon with as far as the economy is concerned and all other sectors. So this is what the major strategy or path which FM had looked into this thing. So the budget has attempted to balance the need for growth over the populist measure, actually.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all these students for your time. I hope there was a good takeaway and learning from the session. Once again, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time that you spent for the development of our students, and we look forward to many more such insights.
Thank you. Thank you, Aparajita. Thank you all the students for being patient and listening to me. And I hope I'm leaving you with a lot of hope. So to look for better days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.